is like the last time I'm setting up these books like that, and I kind of want to cry. Hey guys, what's up? It's Lainey, and today is the day that I talk about Immortal Reign. This is the 6th and final book, I can't believe I just said that, of the Fallen Kingdom series by Morgan Rhodes. If you've been a follower of my channel for over 4 years now, you'll know that this is my favorite fantasy series. If you just have clicked on this video because you wanted to see an Immortal Reign review, hi, I'm Lainey, and I'm like really obsessed with the series. I have so many videos of this series that I've made a playlist. I'll link that down below. The final book was just released last week. I lost sleep trying to finish this book really quickly because I was inhaling it. Perfect conclusion, bittersweet, 5 out of 5. I loved it. If you haven't read this series, you probably are not going to want to watch this video. If you've read 1 through 5, this literally picks up right where Crystal Storm ended. All of these characters have like this huge fallout of what just happened with this failed ritual where the kindred have been released finally and have gone into vessels. The ceremony was disrupted. The gods that had gone into our girl Cleo and Taryn were not complete. They are still them. Versus Kyan, the Fire Kindred, went into Nick. Nick is no longer Nick. Olivia, the Watcher, the Earth Kindred went into her, and she's no longer herself either. It definitely delivers on the big bad front. I really enjoyed their interactions. The storytelling is perfect. It reminded me a lot of the storytelling in Frozen Tides. I loved the storytelling in Frozen Tides. This book did not disappoint in that aspect. Pacing, the chapter order, it was just like perfectly crafted because there are a lot of POVs. Our core 4 that we've been with since the beginning, Jonas, Cleo, Magnus, and Lucia. We also have Amara, as well as a few chapters with Nick. To wrap up the non-spoiler section, if you have read up to Crystal Storm, you just haven't gotten to it yet, pick it up, finish it, read it. It's a great conclusion to the series. And I'm also going to mention this, that after you finish this book and you haven't picked up the spin-off books, A Book of Spirit and Thieves and The Darkest Magic, I honestly think this is like the perfect time to pick up those books if you've been hesitant about reading the spin-off series, because there's a lot of like Easter eggs in this final book that like I was thinking, I'm like, whoa. So that is it for the non-spoiler section. I'm gonna get into the spoilers. Got my notebook that I was writing down everything, how I'm gonna organize this book talk. I'm gonna kind of go in chronological order because obviously all the characters are kind of together in the beginning of the book, but then they all split up into what I think are 3 different storylines. I'm gonna follow kind of each storyline through to the end. Let's start with the prologue. Morgan Rhodes is the queen of writing a prologue. What is it that she does with this series that the prologue is always so interesting and so relevant, but we don't know why it's relevant, but it always reveals itself. And this one is between Timotheus, him and this witch called Valia. We know that she's an exiled watcher. There's seriously hints in this prologue that totally allude to the spin-off series, but I won't get into that. First chapter is Jonas. Jonas, I was like ready to kind of write off. I thought his storyline was kind of coming to an end. I thought he was gonna die in this book. And then by the first chapter, he roped me back in. He hooked me. I really liked Jonas again. I knew I was gonna be devastated if he did die. Okay, so I'm back in Jonas's corner again. So then Amara and Cleo decide to tentatively team up, which I was all for, all about. I love them, and Amara has become one of my favorite characters in the series. If I had to order the characters, obviously Magnus is the first, and then toss up between Cleo and Amara. I've probably mentioned this before in my previous videos, but I hated Amara in Gathering Darkness, but then once we get her perspective, it was like a flip switch, and I was ride or die for her for the rest of the series. Magnus is down in the ground, and he is like trying to bust himself out, has the ring, hint hint, spin-off series. He literally says this in this chapter. He much preferred the ice and snow of Lamaros. You keep telling yourself that, homeboy. Back to the compound. Lucia is there and she demands to see Gaius. I've had such an up and down relationship with Gaius. First, he is the villain, and then we see him get brought down in Frozen Tides, and then he's slowly building himself back up, but in a different person. Lucia and Magnus have like peak daddy issues, and to kind of see them reconcile with their father before he dies, which I really liked that. I guess I could relate to it on a personal level. My emotions were so confused because when Lucia and Gaius are like walking around the compound and they were like daddy-daughter fight night, and I was like kind of like for it. I kind of liked them again. Now they're meeting each other again, completely different than when they were in the beginning of the series. I liked it. Okay, so Lucia like gave up on Magnus so quick, doing this locator spell, and then she's like, he dead. Meanwhile, Magnus is over here literally clawing out of his grave like Buffy did. The chapter when he was still in the ground was like, oh man, I really loved that. Even at the very end, he was still so Magnus. Okay, so I tabbed this one because, you know, of course I tabbed. He grimaced, made another fist, and then punched again. This would take time. You can always tell what character is thinking in these books because they all think and process different things differently, and I love that about this series. All the characters are so unique, and I'm like, jealous. Amara and Felix are like my love-hate relationship, peak doomed ship, because they should never be together, and they parted ways mutually towards the end. There was an understanding there. Their banter kills me. Do you know what I'm going to do to you when I get out of here? I tell you, but I don't want to give you nightmares. I love that. Amara is being like the bad boss bitch that she is. I love her. I want Amara to have a spin-off series. She is my favorite. So she, you know, leaves to go to Croatia. It totally fit her character. Morgan writes her so well. When the going got tough, she was gonna peace out and go back home. She's scared of Lucia. She's scared of the Fire Kindred. She's like, okay, so you guys kind of got this taken care of. I'm gonna go. She leaves. Her favorite character trait of mine is her self-preservation. I'll say it because I'm currently watching The Vampire Diaries. Catherine also has this like deep-seated need for self-preservation. I love that in a character just because it's so personally selfish, but I don't care. A lot of other characters will shy away from that, but Amara, she don't care. She's gonna go. She wants to protect herself. She's so bluntly honest and transparent to the reader about what she wants. I could talk about Amara forever. Let's just go straight into Magnus and Cleo. They like just barely miss each other at the compound. You know, they don't see each other until chapter 14. I mean, chapter 14 is like my favorite chapter, of course, but in Frozen Tides, they finally make camp. And then they spend this entire Crystal Storm with Cleo DTF the entire book, and then Magnus like always cock blocking himself. You know, I want this whole book to be about them. They're on the goddamn cover. It took them almost 150 pages to like finally see each other again. I read this first section so quickly. I sat down to read Tuesday night. I'm gonna read until Magnus and Cleo find each other again. Page 70, page 100, page 130. And I'm like, what the hell? I need to get up for work. Finally it happens. Totally reminded me of when Elizabeth Swann and Will Turner hooked up on the beach at the end of the third Pirates movie. That's what I was picturing. I finally felt like this was the chapter that I wanted in Crystal Storm, of them knowing that they loved each other and there was no more drama or miscommunication surrounding their relationship. I felt so fulfilled when I read chapter 14. When all the Demoras, Gaius and Magnus and Lucia met up in the throne room for the first time they were reunited. I'm so team Demora. I just liked that scene. I liked when they were all together. I knew Lucia wasn't gonna die even though I wanted her to die. Her character as a whole I felt like was better than previous books. I didn't hate her as much as I used to. But they keep teasing her death. First, she was supposed to die in childbirth. Dang, you survived that. Then Jonas was gonna kill her and I'm like, okay, maybe? No, disappointed again. She is like defying all the prophecy odds here. After Gaius's death, which was like, I didn't almost believe it. I was like confused at first when he died. Did he really die? Is he gonna get healed somehow? Gonna pull like a gotcha and like start standing up? But no, he died by such a common death. I was still like reading these chapters, still expecting Gaius to like come back. He never did. Like once Magnus like had said like he was in the ground, I'm like, okay, I guess he's dead. But of course he had to die because after King Gaius's death, the book splits off into the 3 storylines. The first storyline, which I'm just gonna say is Jonas and Lucia, so I can talk about it first and get it over with. Second storyline is Amara's storyline, in which she's in Croatia, and the third storyline is Magnus and Cleo, Asher dealing with the kindred directly, Jonas and Lucia first. I'm like literally reading their chapters like this. Do I ship you guys? Not really. How is this gonna go? What's gonna happen? Are you guys gonna end up together? I just didn't really know what to think. It's hinted that they end up together. Jonas is gonna be a fantastic stepdad. I'm fine with that. He'd be a good father figure. There's this thing that Magnus says on page 157. Cleo mentions kind of Jonas and Lucia are getting closer, and he's like, don't even put that potential pairing into my mind. I have enough foul dreams to deal with as it is. Literally the reader. Magnus spoke for all of us right there. And then I was like getting these feels that Jonas was gonna ascend to be a watcher. Like, I can get behind this. I'm like kind of cool with that. But then the sanctuary is destroyed. And then they kiss. I didn't know how I felt about that either. I just like didn't know how to feel about Jonas and Lucia. They kind of had a cute banter kind of going where I was like, okay, I kind of like what they're saying to each other. The thing I did like about their kiss, she kissed him, and in like the very next second, she's like, I'm gonna steal your magic now. She does it and then fucking leaves. Literally laughed out loud when that happened. I liked that. Point for Lucia there. Now we're talking about Amara. I feel like I've never trusted her grandmother, and she kind of like reminds me of Olenna from Game of Thrones in a way, just because she's like clearly a grandmother in charge. Like, she knows what's going on. However, with Olenna, she would do anything for her grandkids. She was very behind Marjorie, and that's totally not the case with Nila. I was like, she's a grandmother that would totally screw over her grandkids given the opportunity. And she totally does. When she gifted Amara with Lissa the baby, that was like so creepy. How she's like, here, I got you a baby as a gift. And I was like, ooh, that's like weird. I loved Amara's reaction to it because, again, totally in character for Amara. She ain't about that. She doesn't want to piss off people stronger than her. Like, I just love Amara. She knows how to play the game. She was like totally not down for that. And I just like love her. Felix and Nerissa decide to go on Magnus's orders to go kill Amara. Totally for the storyline. I've been like waiting for the storyline since Frozen Tides. Both Felix and Nerissa both kind of had relationships with Amara. I liked the relationship that Amara and Nerissa were building. Totally love that Amara is bisexual. Definitely not queer baiting. It's pretty obvious throughout the text because creations are very fluid with their sexuality. I really liked the creation storyline in this book. There's totally seeds for a spinoff. Their own revolution, they're going through their own shit while Mitika is like finally starting to head towards the end of their shit. Well, first I thought Amara's final chapter would be of after she stabs Nila. She tells Felix and Nerissa to go back to Mitika with Lissa. I really liked how that ended. Total end of Amara's arc. And Amara, alone in the room with the body of her grandmother, waited to see who would arrive first. A rebel to kill her or a guard to arrest her. She knew she'd more than earned either outcome. My heart just like felt so complete for her character arc. I liked that it was left up in the air, like what would happen to her. But then we do get a 1 month later with her, and I liked that chapter and I didn't like that chapter. I liked where she was headed. She was headed to the fantasy version of an insane asylum. She was already like making up her plans of how she was going to escape, and she knew that she would. And everything that's been leading up to this point implies to the reader that yes, Amara would be able to get herself out of any situation that she's been put in. Let me find the quote. My favorite quote was, okay, she would go to the madhouse, she would play along and behave herself, and, well, very likely seduce a guard who would eventually help her escape. For now, however, she had to be patient. That encompasses Mara's character completely. I loved, that was like one of my favorite paragraphs in the entire book. But then Nerissa rescues her. I liked the idea of them going off and exploring the world together. But even Amara says here, I deserve escape, she thought, and continued survival, but certainly not rescue by outside forces. And I agree with that. I didn't necessarily like Nerissa rescuing Amara, mostly because I'm thinking, okay, Amara's gonna go into the madhouse. She's gonna plot her escape. There is our spin-off series that I'd be ride or die for. That kind of ended Amara's storyline. And then we have, of course, the main storyline, I feel like, was with Magnus and Cleo, Asher, Nick, and the other kindred. They're getting their answers from Valia, who is the witch from the prologue. They don't like what they're hearing, so they're just like, you need to go. And I'm like, no, she can help. Like, why are you getting mad about what she's saying? It's like they didn't like the answers that she was giving them. Bye, you need to go, we'll figure this out on our own. Even though we haven't really been figuring anything out. She was their first concrete lead into figuring out how to get the kindred out of Cleo and Terran. I almost said Theon again. It was like a stupid move and I like didn't like that. So Magnus has this like bloodstone ring, which is basically like the ring Alaric wears in the Vampire Diaries. Can't die. What I liked about him having this ring is that book 1 Magnus would have been all about this ring. Like he would have been, how can I use this to my advantage? How can I use this to gain over my father? Him having this ring in book 6, it's like a totally different Magnus. Like he had it, but he didn't really like realize how much this was a huge item for him to have. When he thought that maybe it would help Cleo, he didn't even like hesitate and he just like took it off and gave it to her. He never would have done that in like the earlier books. Like, you know, character growth. He escapes death 3 times in this book. The grave, and he's thrown against some wall. Should have died. And then full circle from the first book, when Magnus is a coward and kills Theon from the back. He drives the sword through his back, and that is seen as a cowardice move. Magnus gets knifed in the back by Curtis. Curtis is, you know, this like little bitch who's even worse than Aaron was. It's like a full circle. He couldn't kill Magnus, but he thought this is how he's gonna do it, by sneaking up on him. Haha, gotcha, he's alive. There was like a total nod to the first book. I dig this. So page 344, one of my favorite lore, myth, world building aspects that I felt like was finally explained, which was one of my questions I had throughout almost the entire series. That is when Lucia and Cleo are talking about how the kindred, the crystal orbs, have prevented magic from thriving throughout everybody in Mythica. That was like one of my questions. I'm like, if the magic is released, I don't know what book talk I said this in, but I said if the kindred, the magic in the kindred was released, would that mean that everybody else who had such limited magic would be able to have magic again? Fucking yes, like that's exactly what happened. And I was like so excited that for once, one of my theories seemed to pan out. All my theories I've had have always like fallen to the wayside. First, I want Jonas and Lucia to be brother and sister. That doesn't happen. Then I want, you know, Amelia to come back to life because I feel like it could have happened. That didn't happen either. My other theory was about like the magic system here. Were the kindred the reason why magic couldn't flourish in Mythica? Yes. Yes, it is. Loved that whole interaction. Plus, I really like the interactions between Cleo and Lucia. I'm glad they made amends. I'm glad they're on friendly terms with each other because no one likes petty girl drama. So we're heading towards the end. I did really like the climax scene. I'm so surprised that everybody survived. It's the Fallen Kingdom series. Everybody dies. And I feel like the only major death we saw in this book was Gaius's death, because Gaius has been a character from the first book. I was just like so shook that no one else died. It's the final book in the series. Them all walking away from it is satisfying to me. It was really emotional. Magnus is doing like, damn it, he's doing everything he can. It's like Cleo, the love of his life. I thought Nick was gonna die because, you know, he says that thing to Asher about like, you know, it would have been great to like go visit the world with you. But you know, they all survived and I'm not mad about that. It felt like it was a great series finale. So then, okay, Magnus mentions how he wants to marry Cleo around flowers and shit because, you know, he likes that now. So I'm thinking, okay, probably the final scene in the book is gonna be of them like getting married again. Her chapter begins with like her getting fitted for a gown. Here I am thinking it's like a wedding dress. This is good. I like how this ending. I want to see my favorite characters have a happily ever after. It's all fine and dandy. I'm like reading. Here I am. I'm almost done. I don't know if I'm ready for this. It's not a wedding dress. Lorenzo's like, I am a genius. This coronation gown is one that will be remembered throughout history. Oh my god, I fucking lost it. Hardcore, ugly fucking crying. But I was so happy because it was way better than a wedding dress. I wanted to see my girl become queen. Here she is in her coronation gown. I was like thinking back to like the first book when she was like, god damn it, I'm gonna be queen by the end of this. Here we are, full circle. My girl Cleo is finally queen. 100% support King Magnus as a whole. It was like the perfect ending. It's alluded that Valia is Valoria, one of the goddesses. They don't explicitly say it, but it's heavily implied. And then she's like gonna have a son, like a prophecy, right? And in time he will discover a great treasure, one that will benefit the world. What is this treasure? I really want to know. But when it comes down to it, what spin-off series would I want? Magnus and Cleo's son or Amara? Amara. Talk to me about this in the comments. I can't believe it's over. It was pushed back until February. It was supposed to be released in December of 2017. If Morgan needed those 2 months to perfect it to what it was, I was cool with waiting those 2 months. That is it for my Falling Kingdoms Immortal Reign book talk. Comment down below what you guys thought about it. Let's discuss it. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.